On this video, I would like to do a reading of Psalm 55 in English and in Hebrew, along with a inductive grammatical analysis. In this psalm, the psalmist David is describing how a familiar friend had betrayed him. And it could be that it was Ahithophel that might have been the one during the time of Absalom's rebellion. But at any rate, let me go through and just read the psalm. He begins with a cry. Notice Lamnatseach ben Ginot maskil David. For the leader, with the stringed music, a maskil of David. Ha'azina Elohim tefilati. Give ear, O God, to my prayer. Va'al tit'alam mitachinati. And do not hide yourself from my supplication. Just a couple forms here of interest. Ha'azina is from azan, to hear. Here we have a Hithpael imperative from azan. So give ear, O God, to my prayer, and do not hide. Tit alam, from alam, a Hithpael, perfect second, Hithpael, Hithpael, perfect second person singular from alam. So do not hide yourself from my supplication. Hakshiva li v'aneni, give attention to me and answer me. Hakshiva is from kashav, to give attention. Another Hithpael imperative from kashav, give attention to me and answer me. Aneni from ana, to answer, followed by the pronominal suffix in the e. For I am distraught in my complaint and will moan. Arid basihi ve'ahima. In other words, he's describing his sorrow and his complaint to the Lord. Mikol oyev mipnei akat rasha. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked. For they cast evil or mischief against me, or upon me. Ki yamitu alai avin. And in anger they persecute me. Uva'af yistetuni, from Satan, or Satam, to persecute, a cow imperfect, third person plural, from Satan, with the pronominal suffix in the e. My heart does writhe within me. The biyahil bekirbi, and terrors of death are fallen upon me. Ve'emot mavet nafalu alai. Nafalu from nafal, the cow perfect, third person plural, from nafal. So terrors of death have fallen upon me. Fear and trembling come upon me. Yura ve'ra'ad yavobi, and horror has overwhelmed me. Vatechaseni palatsut. Excuse me, please. Fear and trembling come upon me. Yabo is the cow imperfect, third masculine singular from bo, have come upon me, and horror has overwhelmed me. Vata haseni palatsut. So he's describing the distress that he's feeling with what has happened to him. So then we go on in the next verse. That would be verse 7. I said, Va'omar mi yatain li eber kayona. I said, oh, that I had wings like a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. Ufa va'esh kona. Va'esh kena. I would fly away and be at rest. Indeed, I would wander afar off. Hine archik nadod. I would go far to wander. I would lodge in the wilderness. Alin bamidbar sela. In other words, I would escape. I would go far away if I could to flee. Archik is from Rahak. It's a Hithpael imperfect first common singular. I would hasten myself to a shelter. Achisha miflatli, from the stormy wind and tempest. Meruach so'ar misa'ar. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongue. Bala Adonai talag leshonam. Here we have a PL imperative in Bala and in Palag. So destroy and divide their tongue. For I have seen violence and strife in the city. The latter part of verse 10. Kiraiti Hamas Berev Ba'ir. Ra'iti from Ra'ah, the cow perfect, first common singular. For I have seen violence and strife in the city. And he is denouncing the one who has betrayed him here. So we continue. Yomam Belila Yesovevuha al Homatecha. Day and night they go about upon the walls. Iniquity also and mischief are in their midst. Ve'avon ve'amal be'kirba. Wickedness is in the midst of it. Havot be'kirba. Oppression and guile do not depart from her broad place. Velo yamish merachova tok u'mirma. For it was not an enemy that taunted me. Ki lo oyev yecharefeni ve'esa. Then I could bear it. Esa from the root masa, a cow imperfect first common singular, where the noon of this pay noon verb has gone into the scene by progressive assimilation. Then I would have borne it. Neither was it my adversary that magnified himself against me. lo misan I alai higdio. Then I would have hid myself from him. Ve'esater mimeni. I would be hidden from him. Higdio here is a Hithpael perfect third masculine singular from Gadal. And then I would have hidden myself. Uh, Here we have esater from satar, to hide. It is a nifal, imperfect first person singular. I would have hidden myself from him. But it was you, a man, my equal. Verse 15. Asher yakdav. It was you, verse 14. Va'ata anosh ke'erki. It was you, a man, my equal, my companion, and my familiar friend. Alufi u meyudai. In other words, it was a close acquaintance that betrayed him. Verse 15. Asher yakdav namtik sod. Together uh, we took counsel, sweet counsel. We were caused to take sweet counsel. Uh, Here we have a Hithpael imperfect first common plural from matah. So we took sweet counsel together, and in the house of God we walked with the throng. Beveit Elohim nehalek berages. In other words, we worship together. And nehalek is a PL imperfect first common plural. We walked with the throng together. May he incite death against them. Yesimot alemo, and let them go down alive into the netherworld. Yirdu sha'o chayim, for evil is in their dwelling and within them. Ki ra'ot bim guram bekirbam. But as for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord will save me. Ani el Elohim hekra ve'adonai yoshieni. The Lord will cause me to be saved. Here we have a Hithpael imperfect third masculine singular from Yasha. Historically, Vasha, followed by the pronominal suffix in the first person singular. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord will save me. Verse 17. Ani el Elohim ekra ve'adonai yoshieni. And the Lord will cause me to be saved. Here we have another Hithpael imperfect third masculine singular with the pronominal suffix in the E. Evening and morning, at my noonday, will I complain and mourn. Erev v'boker v'zahorayim, sicha ve'ehamet, and he has heard my voice. Vayishma koli. So God is going to become his vindicator. He goes on to describe how God has heard him and is going to vindicate him. He has redeemed my soul in peace, so that none came near me. Pada beshalom nafshi mikarav, mikaravli, for they were many that moved with me. Ki varabim hayu imadi, there were many that were with me, or that that strove with me. God will hear and humble them. Yishma el v'ya'aneni. God will hear and will humble them, or cause them to be humbled. even he who is enthroned of old. Vayoshev Kedem Selah. Here we have the present participle in Yashav, the one who is enthroned of old, such as have no changes. Asher ein halifot lamo, and fear not God. Velo yiru Elohim. He has put forth his hand against them that were at peace with me. Verse 21. Shalach Yadav Bishlomav, he has profaned his covenant. Hillel Berito. Smoother than cream were the speeches of his mouth. Halaku ma hamaot piv, but his heart was war. Hu karav libo, his words were softer than oil. Daku debrav mishemen, yet they were like keen-edged swords. Vehema vehi, vetichot. Cast your burden upon the Lord, and he will sustain you. So he's talking about trusting in the Lord in the midst of what he's going through. Hashlek el Adonai Yehal Havachav. Cast your burden. Cause to cast. A Hithpael from Shalach, imperative. So cast upon him your Yehavah, and he will sustain you. Vehu Yehal Kelecha. He will never suffer the righteous to be moved. Lo Yetain Le'olam Mot Latzadig. But you, O God, will bring them down into the netherworld. The Ata Elohim Toridem Livher Shachar. Men of blood and deceit shall not live out half their days. Lo Yechatzu Yemehem, but as for me, I will trust in you. Va'ani Eftach Bach. So as we look at this psalm, it's a psalm really of crying out to the Lord for help and realizing that he's been betrayed by a close friend and he feels really hurt. And so he's describing that hurt. And he talks about cast your burden upon the Lord and he will sustain you. He will never suffer the righteous to be moved. In other words, he feels as long as I am righteous and doing right, the Lord will take care of me. As I think about the New Testament, we have cast your burden upon the Lord is a theme. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication. So, looking at this psalm, it's a psalm where he's crying out and denouncing a friend that has betrayed him, and he's hurt by it. And we see crying out to God, being overwhelmed by what has happened. If it was an enemy, he could deal with it better. One of the hardest things in life is dealing with maybe someone that has been a friend but has done things that were very hurtful. One of the beautiful things about the New Testament is we're to forgive no matter what happens. I'm reminded of the Lord's Prayer where Jesus prayed on the cross, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And Jesus taught the power of forgiveness by his example when he forgave. And I think that if the Lord's Prayer, Lord, forgive us as we have forgiven those forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. So one of the most important things, even when people maybe are hurtful, is to have a forgiving heart. That's what the Lord is teaching. And that is what I think the overall conclusion of this psalm would be, looking at it from a New Testament a teaching. We're to forgive and ask the Lord to take our burden to the Lord and forgive those that maybe err uh, us, or even people that you thought were your friends, to forgive them as the Lord has forgiven us. And forgiveness is such an important theme in this, I guess, really not only, I guess we would say, especially as we look at the New Testament in relation to trying to understand the pain that the psalmist is going through. Let us be forgiving and follow the example of Jesus, who said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do.